Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, a new kind of podcast where no topic is off limits. We're bringing in experts and owners to have the conversations we should be having as a dog community. Each week, a new guest will share firsthand experiences, educational resources, or professional guidance to help you learn and grow along with your dog. You won't get one perspective here, you'll get them all, because every dog is different and every owner is too.
You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk, or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Today's episode is sponsored by BioDanes, your premier source for custom biothane solutions. You can get high-quality tailored gear for your furry friend, including service dog harnesses, pet harnesses, sport dog harnesses, and custom orders on leashes and collars. Not only are these products durable and long-lasting, they're customizable. You can even personalize them with text. Learn more about BioDanes at their website in the link below, and follow them on social media at BioDanes. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and I'm flying solo this week, but we do have a really special guest, Tayrn from BioDane, and she's here to talk to you guys about biothane products. How are you doing tonight, Tayrn?
I'm doing great, and how are you?
I am good. I'm really excited to have you here. We've been using your products for a few months now, and we are obsessed. We have 2 full harnesses and 2 long lines that you custom made for us. We have Fitz's kind of go-to colors, which is 2 shades of blue, and it says "Do Not Pet" on there in vinyl. And then you also made us a Straight Up Dog Training custom set, which is black and gold, which really by the time this episode is out, we will start featuring that a little bit more on our M Loves Dogs account, because that's why we had it made, for training purposes, so that people could see how awesome your gear is. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started and why you decided that biothane was the thing for you?
Yeah, so I started my shop BioDanes for a couple of reasons. At first, it was definitely a hobby. And, I had some friends that, they couldn't afford gear, or, they needed some specific types of things to help them in their service dog careers. And it just, the community in general loves to trade and, do that sort of stuff. And they weren't kind of getting what they needed from that. And I just took it upon myself. I learned about biothane and I loved it because of the many features that biothane has, and all of the rows that come with it. Plus, I do have a very different lifestyle in which I live on a bus. So once I started getting more requests for the biothane from other people outside friends, it started becoming into like a full business model shop type of thing for me. And it really helped me propel, my lifestyle of living on a bus off, because I could be my own, business person, but I also can help others, customize the gear that is absolute for their needs. Was a big one.
And that's huge, because people like to customize their stuff, right? Like I said, Fitz has his kind of like standard colors, blue and teal and sometimes green. And Toby is kind of like green and red usually. So we have colors that we like for our dogs. And I think that anything that is highly customizable is huge out there on the market. And what you offer is just so cool, because not only is it customizable, it is, a unique fit per dog. You could probably use the same harness or collar on any dogs that were similar sizes. But one of the things that you do have your customers do is you have them measure your dogs, which is so important, because that is what makes the harness fit properly. You can go to PetSmart, Petco, wherever, any just general corner store that has pet supplies in it, and buy a harness and a leash. And that has always been the hardest for me, is because they never fit right. They fluff up in the front, or they pucker, or the buckle won't close, or the hardware isn't strong or sturdy and it breaks. And then I have spent, $20 or $30 and it's in the trash already. And I've only had it for 2 days. So for me to be able to know that it's going to last a long time and that it's going to have better wear and tear and that it's actually going to fit my dog is really important for me. And I think that that is a huge thing for a lot of people too. It costs a little bit more, but in my opinion, it's also going to last a lot longer. So that's a huge deal for people. What do you?
I kind of when it comes to that too, my philosophy is if you're not wearing the right size clothing, you're going to be bothered by certain parts on your body that just aren't fitting right. Like maybe that tag is really just stressing you out because it's digging in the back of your neck. Your pants are too tight, so it's digging into your waist. For a dog, if it's not fitted properly, they're not focused on anything but the fact that they're uncomfortable. And I feel like that's such a human thing we can relate to is that if I'm not comfortable with my own clothing, my dog is not going to be comfortable in something that's ill-fitted or is coming apart or is just not properly sized to them. And then your training is just kind of going to go out the window because the whole time they're like focused on, I don't feel good, I don't feel good, I don't feel good. And they don't realize that it's only temporary for that harness. And they're just going to obsess on it. I find that they have a much clearer head in something they can actually work in, whether that be sport, a home, you're working on reactivity, you're working on dock diving, just a plethora of stuff that could be happening.
Well, and also there's like that negative association too, right? If it doesn't feel good when it's on them, they are not likely to cooperate or consent to you putting it on them. And I remember the conversation that I had with you after I put it on Fitz the first time was that, normally with new things, he's very sensitive. He takes a while. I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take us like a week before he's okay with me putting this harness on him. But because it fit him and because it was easy to put on him, he was not upset by it. And now every day, as soon as I pick the harness up, he just runs down the stairs and waits for me because he knows that means that we're either going to go on a walk or we're going to go for a car ride. And I just think that that is really important because we're thinking about it from our dog's perspective. Like you said, if it doesn't fit, it's uncomfortable. And kind of transferring how they feel about that is just so important because it does. It makes a difference in training. It makes a difference in performance, and it makes a difference in how well they can pay attention. So I think that it's really cool that you factor all of that in, especially because when we had talked the first time and I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. I want to order some of your products from you. And you had me measure him and size everything out. You told me how sensitive it is on their shoulders. And that is a thing on a lot of harnesses that covers their shoulders, but yours don't. They're open and they have full range of motion, which is like, again, so important because now you don't have anything pinching and they can move. And I think that being able to give our dogs a little bit of freedom and comfort in these situations where we're literally attaching them to us in some way, that they should be comfortable. So I think it's really cool that you advocate for that. As far as care for biothane, let's talk a little bit about that because I'm sure there are some listeners who've never had a biothane product before. So why don't you list some of like the pros of biothane and how to take care of it?
Yeah. So one of the biggest selling points in biothane when people are looking for, a collar, a leash, something along the lines, they're looking for something that's going to hang out on the adventures, something that's going to last a long time, something that can get dragged through the dirt without wearing down. And biothane is amazing at being durable. It's being strong. It's great for adventures. It's waterproof. It's smell-proof. It's super easy to clean. And I find it's a really safe texture for certain people that have like problems with textures, just because it is kind of like a smooth coated finish. And, with that strength comes, certain things are good for cleaning it, just because certain harsher chemicals can downgrade biothane's strength and density. So I, on my business cards, always keep something that says, just try to do warm, soapy water. That's kind of the best bet that you have. There are certain cleaners that are compatible with the biothane. I normally recommend anything that's biodegradable, just because if it's good for the earth, it's good for the biothane. So anything that's like harsher, like vinegar or bleach or Clorox, anything that's like, I mean, yes, it may be sanitizing it, but a hot water and soap can do just as well while being just as gentle, especially if you have things that have vinyl on them, rhinestones on them. I'm pretty versatile shop in general, so I try to keep as many like options open as possible for my customers. So it's just super important that like you're just trying to upkeep whatever add-ons you've added to it as well, because you do have metal pieces of hardware and that good stuff. That's not just the biothane that makes the product.
No, 100%. And it really is easy to care for. I use Norwex cleaning products, and I just take one of their cloths. They have silver nitrate woven in it, and I just take it and I get it wet and I squeeze it out, and then I just kind of wipe the harness down. But knowing that I can do a deep clean with Dawn and that is safe for it is a really good thing to know, because we want it to last, right? And the benefit of it not smelling or fraying or just kind of falling apart is so important. And the hardware that you use, it's so heavy duty. Like the buckle and I don't even know, are they both called buckles? Because there's like the buckle that looks like the belt, and then there's a snap-in buckle. Are those both called buckles?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So one is called a quick release buckle. So it's like if you need to quickly release it in a jiffy. And then the other ones are technically called double bar buckles, but they're kind of like what you would typically call a buckle. The other one's more of a quick release.
Like a belt. It looks like a belt buckle. And and the other one just kind of clips in like a seat belt. So that makes sense to me, quick release. But they're really heavy duty. I mean, that's probably the heaviest part of the whole harness set is the metal that's on the whole piece versus, the actual biothane. Like in comparison, like holding the leash versus holding the harness, harness is much heavier because it's got, all kinds of different clips and places for me to attach the leash. And that was something else that was really customizable about working with you, is that you had asked, where do you want the clips? Where do you want the leash to attach? Like, what exactly are you thinking? And I was like, well, I'd like a clip here and a clip here. And then I got it. And you had done like just matching clips in the front on each side and matching clips on the back on each side. And, you use the vinyl to customize it for me, which also you use the glow in the dark vinyl on our blue one. And I absolutely freaking love it, because in my entryway where we put it on, there's not like a great source of light. And so it's only natural lighting. So every time I'm putting it on him, it like starts glowing, and I just love it. I'm like, look. So I love that. But I also love it because, at nighttime, that's something that you can have as a way for people to be able to see you. So just knowing that there's those options out there, it makes it, I think, one, it makes it fun, but two, it makes it so that you can make sure that your dog is going to be successful in their adventures. Like you said, whether they're training in their house or in their yard, or if you're going on a walk or long-term, whatever, we want them to be comfortable. And if we can make it easy and we can do it with a product that is clean and going to last for a while, it's just so much better than replacing something every 2 or 3 months because your dog just wears right through it like Fitz does. And in general, I know like it's going to be different for every owner because the wear and tear and how they care for it and all that kind of stuff. Like this is not a product, like you said, it's not going to last forever because not everything lasts forever. But if somebody were to take really good care of it, wipe it down, dry it every night or every other day, just whenever it needed it, and they kept it in a cool, dry place and just took really good care of it, followed your instructions, how long do you think it would typically last?
Honestly, years. Like I have collars that I made about 3 years ago, and I have a 150-pound Great Dane who obviously, sometimes I got to grab the collar in an oh shit moment. And I feel as though it's not the biothane that degrades first, it's the hardware that degrades first. And that's also like a learning curve for, I think, all biothane shops in general, is especially like everyone is very like, what's the best source? Like I've got to think about what size dog is wearing this. Is this dog a puller? Is this dog, like, does the owner not believe in or not wear harnesses in general? Because some people just like to put this on a flat collar. Does this dog, is it going to book it if it hears a noise that it's scared of? And it's just super important that, like, with the strength of, like, having the biothane, like, not only does it need to last years, the biothane itself, but the hardware also needs to last with the collar. And I find that certain companies have just stronger, more welded together stuff. And I have had those collars for years. But the collars that I do find that fall apart, it's the hardware that falls apart first, not necessarily the biothane itself. So you can have a biothane collar for the whole dog's lifespan, depending on how fast they grow and if they needed that much of a size difference when it comes to their collar making.
No, 100%. And I think that, again, that's just another one of those areas where we have owner accountability, right? We have to take care of the things that we're using just as much as we take care of our dogs and take responsibility for, their behavior. Because if we're not taking care of the stuff that we're using, then it is going to just fall apart. But if you're taking care of it and you're using it the way that it's supposed to be used, you're not going to have those issues. And hardware, metal rusts. If you don't take care of it, if you don't dry it, you can definitely have all kinds of issues with that. And then I think, having multiple places that you get your hardware from is probably a good thing, because one, that gives you the ability to figure out which brand is the best, which is, the strongest, which is the most durable, and also potentially figure out, like, does this buckle last longer? Does this buckle look better? I'm sure that there's quite a range of supplies out there. You do so many unique looking things that I'm sure that size and shape, all of those things factor into creating products like this. I wouldn't even know where to begin, honestly. So I guess that's a good question to ask you, because now that I'm sitting here thinking about all of the buckles and the rings and just all of the different pieces of hardware that you have to have, even like the decorative stuff, because you do like they almost look like little bedazzled, and you have like the gemstones and stuff. Do you have that on hand, or do you order it custom, like for every single one that you do?
So I would say, in order for me to be a successful creator, I need to have options that is great for everyone. And I would say that there's, one, two, three, four, there are 5 hardware options that I currently carry at all times. That's not to say that I'm not afraid to special order anything for anyone. Like, I got heart-shaped rings that people went nuts for. And so now I keep heart-shaped rings on me at all times because, every once in a while I do get an order for them. And it just kind of depends. I live on a bus, as I said before, so I do have limited space, but I keep everything of 5 colors on hand. That way I am more efficient at processing orders. So for me, I carry silver, black, rose gold, and then neochrome, which is also known as oil slick. It's more of a rainbow iridescent color. I will say that out of all of them, silver's probably the safest bet. Like, if you're looking for something that's not going to show wear and tear, something that's going to, like, I know it's going to stand up, and something that's just always going to look brand new, definitely the silver. Because, all the other ones have a coating or a finish on them in order to get you those colors that you do enjoy. For example, like, I'm not going to lie, the rainbow one is so pretty. It's gorgeous, but I could never let my dogs wear it because they would rub that rainbow off in a heartbeat. I would say, like, black hardware is kind of the runner-up, but again, there's a finish on it. So if your dog is going to be rough and gravel, or things are like dragging on the ground, then maybe you want to go with the other option. And so, like, for my rhinestones, I order the rhinestones kind of to the order, but I'll over order them, if that makes sense. So I have more for next time. So it's kind of like, if I don't have a color on, then I'll totally just order it. But if you're like, hey, you don't have this color, but could you do this color? I really believe in, like, for me, I have all dogs of the spectrum. I have a Chihuahua, I have a Great Dane, and I've got my middleman. And my Chihuahua, I'm not gonna lie, I dress her like she's a princess. She's wearing tutus, she's wearing blinged out collars, and, we gotta have a collar to match the outfit, to match me. Like, that's really important to me. And so having that option of just, like, I want this rhinestone, but this rim set to go around it, but this hardware, Like, that's just so vital to being happy with your product rather than here's a template and I fill it out type of deal. And so I just think like having those options, like I just have so many that if you did want, like, and if you found something that I haven't already found, I would love to know about it. So I'm not afraid of the challenge that comes with having something I don't have on hand, but that's just what I carry on hand for now, just with the limited space I have.
I think that's smart. And I think that helps you get started on something right away. And then if somebody wants to customize something further, then they can. Speaking of that, what if somebody wanted like a combination of like silver and gold or silver and rainbow? Are you open to that as well?
That's actually amazing because I haven't had a question. So like I haven't had someone ask that, but that sounds amazing because I could see that being really cute for a couple of different styles. I've had more people go surprise me more than anything else. And I haven't thought
Really?
the tweet tone. Yeah, I have had a lot of people that they kind of give me a color scheme and they're like, surprise me. Like, they'll give me a budget. They'll give me what they like. And one person was like, this is my budget. I like blues, go ham. And so I'll just kind of like go as I please. Like, some of them want me to kind of draw it up beforehand. I'm not the best artist, so that's an apology in advance. But like, I'll get it done. And then it's just kind of like, I haven't had anyone ask for like two-tone hardware, but I have had some people go like, I want black hardware for like the harness, but then I want silver hardware for the leash, just because they know the leash is going to get more beat up than the harness does. But I haven't had any mixed media yet. That's actually super interesting. That might be another good like pre-made route to go.
Okay, so now I'm thinking that because we've already started another project. You and I have already started another project because you just released like this really cool new design and you're looking for star hardware instead of hearts for me. But wouldn't it be cool if we could do like black and gold and then transfer it back into the straight up dog training? Because we had just been talking about how you used the vinyl and they were discontinuing the gold biothane. And I was like, oh no, but if we could incorporate the hardware, that would be really neat. What is the style again called, the new pattern that you just released?
Are you talking about like the leash combo set?
Yes.
So that is my French martingale, but revisited. I kind of call it my transformer because it can be so many things at once. The collar can be a standalone collar since it has a quick release and an adjustable buckle on it, as well as 2 O-rings at the end, in which the leash that I make specifically for this collar can loop through and create the martingale effect, in which French martingales originated with the fact that it wasn't chain, it was a leash connected to the collar itself. So it had to be one unit. And I had one of my ambassadors come up and she goes, crazy idea. And so me and her brainstormed a lot of new ideas, and she is amazing. She helps me just become more creative as a person. And she is heavily in the dog sports community. So when she came to me with this, she goes, this is the idea, man. I need it flashy. I need it vinyl. And, you know, biothane is always like just continuing colors, unfortunately, to bring on new colors because they can't have, you know, how many colors can you have of each size type of deal?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, gold did not make the cut this time. So bringing in the gold vinyl really helps. She's definitely one of my few that loves the gold vinyl. And so I think having that like ingenuity where it's like multiple things at once, that's like what keeps me going as a business as well. Like it keeps me up there. And so having new things like when I'm finding the stars and we're doing that cut type of deal where you're like, hey, I love this style, but I want it my style. And like, I think that's like essential. Like I want this base, which is the French martingale sports, but I want it with stars. And that's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's freaking make it with stars instead of hearts. And that's where like, yeah, I'm on the hunt for some gold stars right now for you. Just see where I can go with that. And I felt bad because gold is definitely one of your colors. And so like my only way I could like, you know, compromise with you is the gold vinyl with it. But the gold
is great. I think that it's great. And now that we know that we can like mix in the hardware with it too, like that, I think even makes something where we go simple and we do maybe just black and then we add in gold hardware. And if we need to add black hardware too, or we add in some gold vinyl, again, you guys, like that's the thing that I love about working with Tayrn is that she's so creative and she has so many fun ideas. And like I said, when I said, oh, I would like the clips here and here, she was like, no. And she just built it out. And it really does help, because there are places that if the leash is attached to the harness, Fitz does not prefer it to be in those. He likes for it to be all the way on his side, on the left or the right. If it's up near his spine or over like the area that's just behind his shoulders, he doesn't like it when the leash is there. We can start off our walk, and if I'm not paying attention and I've clicked the leash to the wrong one and he starts doing this weird thing with his shoulders, I know immediately that it's because I put the leash on in the wrong place, and then I just move it and he is fine. So again, it's about knowing your dog and reading their body language, but also making sure that they're comfortable and that waistband is in the right place, because I know that when my pants don't fit, I don't want to wear them. So I totally get that sentiment. So let's talk a little bit about the bus life, because I just think that it's so fascinating that you have created this business and fit it into your lifestyle of traveling around on this bus and living with your dogs and just like creating art. And living up with your little happy little heart creativity. So tell us a little bit about how that goes, what you do, where you stay, and just kind of where you travel to.
Yeah. So honestly, the bus life has been one of the best decisions I ever made in life, if I'm being completely honest. As someone who caters to service dogs, I myself have a disability. And so it just got to a point where I needed the freedom, and I wasn't sure that I was getting the freedom just by sitting in one location. And now I wake up to mountains, I wake up to beaches, I wake up to like whatever attractions I want to go to. And so having the biothane is such a freedom and luxury. And I cannot thank all of my followers enough for, because they themselves give me that luxury of having freedom. And for me, the bus life was just simple. Like, I actually bought mine already built out, because as much as I wanted to start that journey, I was really impatient and wanting to start the traveling. And so for me, I love to stay at campgrounds. Campgrounds are amazing because you normally get a bunch of RVers. Nothing against an RV, but I'm just a big bus person. I love to see buses. And I painted mine to look like a struggle bus. So the side says struggle, license plate says struggle, because it's just a struggle to live out there and rent nowadays. And so with the campgrounds, they come with electricity normally, running water, there's bathrooms, showers, everything to be clean. Although there are some people who love to go the off-grid style. I'm slowly weaning my baby self off to the off-grid style, but I like having certain amenities. And so I currently travel with 5 animals and both of my sisters. And it is such a blast because you meet so many people on the road. Like, people stop me all the time in my bus. This morning, I was driving to my new campground, and a sweet girl asked me if I could pull over so she could look inside my bus for like 5 minutes, because she herself was contemplating on buying one. And it's one of those moments where you want to be annoyed because you're like, oh, I gotta stop. But at the same time, like, this is this girl's dream. And if I can help her like visualize one more step in it, then that makes me feel better as a person. And, the lifestyle in general is so caring, and you don't even know these people. Like, my bus wouldn't start one day, and a lovely couple walked over and was like, hey, do you need me to jump it? I didn't even ask. They just saw I was frustrated and, just trying to get it on. And it's just one of those things where I love the fact that I have no idea who they are, but they just clearly went out of their way to help me. And it makes me feel like I should do the same for other people. Like, I feel as though it makes me a better person, and my dogs love this lifestyle. They absolutely love it. And I have quite the pack, not gonna lie. It makes it a little easier when you're traveling to own more, when you don't have, landlord restrictions and you're worried about your house being torn apart. Because I do have a Chihuahua, a Chiweenie, I have a Great Dane, and I just got a puppy, a rough-coated collie, and they are my world. And my Great Dane actually had massive potty issues when we lived in the house. Like, I hired trainers, I sent her to a board and train, and for 150-pound Great Dane, if they're peeing the house every day, it's banging my head against a wall because I don't know how to help her and she doesn't know how to help herself. And when we actually moved onto the bus and she started, like being outside all day and we come in at night, she loves it because she gets to decide when she eats. She gets to decide when she goes to the bathroom. She's on a 20-foot lead right now, actually, and she gets to circle the area. I also do canine crossing with her. So, we do run our miles. And, my chihuahuas love being in the tent because they're just my passenger princesses. They love just kind of soaking in the attention that I'm around a lot of older people. So they just love my little chihuahua in a dress and she eats the attention up because it's not my attention, it's everyone else's. And I just think in general, it was just such a, there are cons, don't get me wrong. There are times where I'm like, oh my God, I chose this. But at the same time, there are just so many pros. And I find that not only myself, but my creativity is better. How I take pictures of my products better because I have a different background almost every week. There's different trees, there's different angles. My products get, different lighting. They get different, I was at a beach 2 weeks ago and last week I was posting in the mountains. I was posting, my product in the water because, it's waterproof. And I think just having just that diversity and I go on a hike every time I go to a new location to find the perfect spot to take pictures at. And I even ask my followers, do you like the natural look? What do you think background wise? What would enhance this? And 9 times out of 10, they want the nature shots. They want to see it in action outside. That's where it belongs. And I use my own products. And I'm not going to sit here and say, biothane's indestructible because we all know it's not. God bless my Great Dane. I should have done a 1-inch leash instead of a 1/2-inch leash because she definitely ate it and walked up to the bus and asked to be let on. So it's one of those things where even I'm using my own products and still learning what my dogs need. And it's just amazing to be able to have the versatility of okay, well, I don't like it here. I'm going to pick up and move because there's nothing for my business. There's no pictures. I also have become a little addicted to meeting my followers. This week, I'll be meeting a lovely girl who used to be my ambassador because I'm 40 minutes from her. So my followers have been hey, come visit me if you're in the area. And I eat that up.
I love that because you and I have talked about this before, but it's not really something that I have talked about on the podcast. But eventually, what you're doing is what I would like to be doing with the podcast. I would like to be in a van or in a bus, and I would like to be traveling around and doing podcast interviews in person and seeing small businesses in action, whether it's a retail store or on a bus, or if it's a big factory, or maybe it's just somebody who works from home and that's how they run their business. I just think that, there are so many people in this community and there are so many trainers in this community and just, between supplements and dog food and collars, leashes, everything that there is out there, that wouldn't it be so cool to just drive around and do the podcast in person and then share that with you guys along with the bus journeys or the van journeys or whatever it ends up turning to be. Plus, like you said, you take your dogs with you and you just kind of have your own little life. And I, like you, am also disabled, and I feel a lot of times that I'm kind of confined or limited due to my income and what I'm able to do and how I'm able to function as a person because of the migraines, because of the constant pain and, missing parts of my structural system that everybody else has that I don't due to a surgery. And I think that, it just sounds so freeing and sounds so fun. And maybe I just need to come hang out with you on the bus for a week and see how it really is before I dive into it. I'll be like, Tayrn, I'm coming to hang out for a week. I'll just fly wherever you are. Come get me at the airport.
Yeah, I would say we definitely look like a small little clown car when we set up at campgrounds because it's me coming out, and then my biggest supporters are my 2 older sisters. I'm kind of the crackhead younger one where I was like, hey, you want to get on a bus with me and travel the country? And so my oldest sister's disabled from the military. So she was like, yeah, I don't see why not. So we actually have a cat as well. That's just my sister's cat, so I don't take ownership of the adventure cat. But we do have the adventure cat as well.
That's awesome.
Because cat collars and harnesses are coming next.
Woo!
I'll have a test subject who is willing but not. And I just think, like, in general, it boosts my creativity, because there'll be one day where I'm like, all right, I'm going to bang out these orders. And then the next day, I am literally like I'm going to a beautiful waterfall. And it's just one of those things where you kind of take a step back. And I realized, especially with my disability, that everyone has access to my attention 24/7. And that's something that we didn't have 25 years ago, where if you went home, nobody bothered you. Nowadays, it's I go home and I've got 16 messages on my phone from someone who wants my attention. And, there's nothing wrong with that. You can take a minute for yourself. Like, I don't need to respond the minute they text me or the minute they contact me. And that's something I've really had to learn and I struggled with, is that I actually put the bus on the back burner because I was so focused on my business, because at some point, I loved the idea, but I was getting a ton of messages. I had started blowing up a little bit, and I was overwhelmed with the amount that I was putting on myself. And I feel like when I have the bus, it just sort of like, when we move to a new location, it's like a fresh start. Start over, relax, take a deep breath, back up. And it's almost like if I get too stressed out in one location, I just got to pick up and go to the other one. Or, like if I, rented it out for so long, I could easily just, call them, cancel, go. I don't like how unsafe this area is. I don't like the fact that my dogs are barking nonstop because people are not minding their business. Okay, pick up, go. And I just think that, like, that helps my business as well, because then I start getting more either creative offers, or I'm not stressing and trying to get myself to bang out all of these harnesses and orders. And then I'm not doing quality work. I'm doing subpar work because I have my attention in 6 different places. And I think that it really helps you go, all right, you need to learn when to focus on the one thing. Because I want to make my harnesses to the absolute best of my ability, because I don't want them falling apart. I don't want someone coming back saying, oh, this happened to it. Which, of course, I'm going to fix it. But it's just one of those things where if I don't have to fix it in the first place, it's going to be so much cheaper, even mentally, than anything else.
Time management it's a really difficult thing. And let's touch on that for just a second, because here you are, you're running a small business, right? And I'm training dogs and I'm running the podcast, but I'm also doing like cleaning houses until I can fully transfer over to just podcasting and dog training, because you have to have that transitional point of income. But time management is so important, especially when you're running a small business, because people don't see how many things go into it. And I know that you'll understand this because you take orders. You're taking orders is probably like me either talking to dog clients or talking to potential podcast guests. Like, you have to build those relationships. You have to talk to people. You have to email. You have to talk to them on the phone. You have to have Zoom meetings. And I'm sure that when you start creating with somebody and you have to say, okay, these are the colors. Okay, well, I don't have this buckle, or I don't have that buckle. What do you think about this buckle? Or do you like this color of vinyl? I remember what it was like going back and forth with you. And you sent me charts and you were very professional and you explained everything. And you made it very easy for me, who had no idea what I was doing, because I am not a person that measures or sews or alters any kind of clothing or anything like that. So I was like, are you sure? Like, am I doing this right? And I remember I sent you pictures of that tape measure, like just barely hanging on to fits, because I was trying to take a picture at that weird angle. So I'm sure that, there's a lot of that involved. And so being able to know, like, I can create in this space, I can go to the waterfall this day, and then on this day, I'm going to go through my DMs and I'm going to talk to all of these people and I'm going to answer all of their questions. And I'm going to make sure I've responded to every email. And you really do, I think, set yourself up for like better amount of success if you can plan out when you can give yourself mental breaks, which is something that I don't think a lot of us remember to do on a regular basis.
Well, and I say to that is that it's very time consuming. Like, for me, it took me a very long time to figure it out, because when I started my biothane shop, It really wasn't even a shop. And, I put my Great Dane on there because she's one of the loves of my life. And, like, who not better to test my products on than a giant dog who's going to be pulling and roughing and scruffing. And, she's given me plenty of concussions just from doing her thing. And it's one of those things where people don't understand. I am my own social media manager. I not only have to do my website, I had to make my website. I had to get people to help me kind of coordinate what needs to go on my website. And social media is a whole other like beast that I've had to learn, which is like a full-time job. Like I have to designate certain days to social media on when I post, on when I answer comments, on when I answer messages. Like it used to be that I used to answer them the minute I got them. And I found out that I was on my phone more than I was making products. And every time I got on my phone, it was to answer questions. It was never to like get on my phone to play a game or to read a book or to go on social media for myself. And it was like social media for my business and then answering everybody. And then I'm so exhausted being on my phone from answering 15 different people. And I have no problem answering questions. That is not where I'm getting at this. Like I do not mind because everyone has a different name for everything. And I'd rather you get the product you want because it is, you're spending that money that you worked hard to earn. Like,
yeah,
I don't need, like my job, like my game plan is never to like take your money and run. Like that's not how you create forever customers or forever like connections with people. And I'd rather just explain it to you the first time right. And then, if something does happen and it doesn't fit, I could be like, hey, I did, like we walked through it. So it's one of those things where not only does it help the customer, but it also helps me kind of guarantee that, I did the best of my ability to make sure that what the product you're getting is the product you need. Because, people have come to me like, I need this handle. And I'm like, okay, what do you need it for? Because they'll ask me to like make it a certain length, and, I can't make handles a certain length because if it's too long, it's not beneficial to the person or the dog. And so it's just giving them that knowledge is empowering to the person. And also, like, I'm not a perfect creator. I make mistakes. And, some people are just too scared to say something if it's wrong. I'm not always going to be right. I have totally misread stuff. I have stayed up late working on stuff, or maybe I was in a rush. And I want you to say something to me. I'm not going to be defensive. I'm not going to be, some people do get pretty defensive or, they think it's more critiquing than anything else. But if I'm wrong, I would love that person to feel comfortable being like, hey, man, this is what I ordered instead. Or if they were like, hey, can we tweak this last minute? I'll be honest, if we can tweak it, I'll tweak it. But if not, I can't. And we'll think about another set, maybe to put that on in the future. And I just think it's super vital for people to like have the courage to just talk to me as a human and not as a, oh, please don't not sell to me because I have this certain way. The amount of people that apologize for asking questions, like, no, keep the questions going. You need to ask questions. If you're confused, you're confused.
Yeah, and communication is so important, especially when you're doing something like this where it needs to fit. Have you ever had anybody send one back because it didn't fit?
So I have had one person swear up and down it didn't fit. But every time they showed me videos of the dog in the harness, I kept having to explain to them, like, hey, it can't be in their armpits. Like, they wanted just everything smaller. And I was trying to explain that it's going to start rubbing and chafing on them. And eventually it kind of just got to a point where she just wasn't happy. And I said, here, let me do this. I have a harness. That's my own personal dog's. And I changed up the front strap to make it the size of her dog's. And I said, try this on, send me a picture. And if it's right, I will remake it and send it to you. Because she did have a whole harness, like hardware is expensive. And I got to take that apart, see if I can reuse any of it. So I was really trying not to have to shorten the harness again. And when she got that harness, she realized that it was digging into her dog's armpits. Like that's the big one, is that you have to look at the dog. And if he looks like an awkward first grader going to school, he's not going to task. He's not going to work. Like he's not going to make it. And I'm not gonna lie, I have a really dramatic Chiweenie. Like if you look at him funny, he screams like you stepped on her or something. And he is my number one contender of if he doesn't like wearing it, he's either going to A, eat it, or B, if the price is right, he's going to scream about it. And he's gonna let you know he does not like it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, and see, that's amazing. First of all, that just shows, I mean, okay, they didn't send it back to you. You pivoted to show them, hey, like, this is how it should fit. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And you made it so that the situation was right. So, that says a lot. I mean, having pride in your work is one thing, and also being, polite and ethical and accommodating is also important. But you also can't let people run you over either. So, there does have to be the line, there does have to be a boundary somewhere in there. And that's kind of where people just have to understand that this is how you make your living. This is your livelihood. And you can adjust and tweak and accommodate as much as possible. But at the end of the day, they have to help you do that. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful. So I don't know. I think that it's really great that you work so hard to make sure that everyone is happy. And I remember how excited I was when my harness first came, and I just could not wait. And immediately, I think I had a reel out almost like the next day because I was so excited. And it really does look so good. When we're walking, it's so visually pretty just to see it work around the right areas, and I can see his body moving properly, and I can see that he's not having issues with it. And even if he has a shake off or whatever, it fits him properly enough that the whole harness doesn't shift. And like you said, it doesn't dig or chafe any areas. I mean, will it cause wear and tear on the coat? Yes, because it's hair. It's going to rub, and he could potentially lose some fur because of it. But I mean, that doesn't matter if it's a collar, if it's a harness, anything that you put on your dog that isn't part of them is going to, I don't want to say damage because that sounds so negative, but it does, it's like putting a ponytail holder in your hair. If you know what that does, that breaks more hair than anything else. That's why you should use clips or the stretchy ones that look like spirals, because they don't grab your hair just like the regular ponytail holders, and then it gets caught around it and breaks. So, you brush your hair, you damage your hair with the brush when you brush your hair, especially if you don't brush your hair the right way. So of course there's going to be wear and tear on their fur when we're using equipment on them, and that's okay. But it should fit properly, and it should allow them to move in a mobile, functional way, especially, like you said, if it's for sports dogs or service dogs, because that really matters when they're performing. If the equipment is not correct, the handler is going to have an issue and the dog is going to have an issue. And then the whole situation is not going to be pleasant for anybody. So I think that it's really great that you put that much time and energy and effort into it. And again, as a small business owner, Instagram is a whole different kind of beast, and taking marketing classes and learning new skills, even watching videos on YouTube, how to create things like you're creating, that time investment in yourself and financial investment in yourself is so important. So I love that you give back to yourself as much as you give to your customers, because I feel like when you do that, that really balances things out, and it turns your job into more than just a job. It turns it into part of your passion and part of your creativity. And I think that just means that we have bigger and better things to come from you.
Yeah, I think that's just sorry, go ahead. I just think it's super vital in general, just especially when it comes to people and just properly fitted things. Whenever I explain to them how to measure that, they now know for every single other dog they have. They're not going to forget that now that they know that. And so now that helps when they're ordering in the future, or they find something else they like, and it just helps the dog in general when it comes to that. And I think when it comes to the hair loss, that's just too much of anything is a bad thing as well. Mm-hmm. That's just in general. I get a lot of questions for poodles and, things that people that have sensitive hair. And I just think in general, the biothane's great for it, but you got to find what also fits with your dog and the type as well. Because some dogs just have that hyper aware sensitive skin that nothing you put on it is going to make that dog happy.
Well, I mean, that's a really good point, because, let's talk about dog senses for just a second, and then we'll kind of transition into our exit here. But sensitive skin, sensitive smell, sensitive hearing, sensitive inside their ears, sensitive inside their mouths, their stomachs. those are all areas, their shoulders, those are all areas that, dogs feel more physically than we do. I mean, we feel pressure as people, but dogs, their senses are different. The way that they respond is different because they don't usually just use like one sense at a time. They incorporate all of their senses into their body, and they feel and have more sensitivity in their skin than humans do too. So like you said, it is really important that you're catering to the specific breed of dog. Maybe, not every little Chihuahua needs a biothane collar. Maybe not every cat needs a biothane collar. Or even some of those other, like you said, poodles, or some of the more sensitive ones like Shih Tzus or Malteses. You just really have to know what is best for your dog and how the wear and tear is going to affect their fur and their skin. So before we transition out for tonight, what do you think is the most important for people to know about biothane and your business BioDane?
I think that the most important thing about biothane is there are a lot of shop owners that sell biothane. It is easy to get a hold of, just the product itself. It's not super hard to, start making products. And, we love when people start new hobbies and such. But I think the biggest thing about biothane is knowing your sources. Who are you getting it from? Are you getting a fully built product? Do you know that fully built product works? Does that person have recommendations? Does the biothane itself, is it biothane the brand, or is it a knockoff biothane that is not the same brand? Because not a lot of people realize that biothane is a brand. It is not the product. That is the company, the original founders of that product. And that's why it's called biothane. And so there are shops that do sell the knockoff version that's not quite as strong, or it's not quite as thick, or, it has different qualities to it than rather than biothane. And I think when it comes to my business, you can see my reviews, you can see pictures of dogs in it, you can see my connections. I'm honest, I'm open, and I just think, I'm down to make whatever. You have a game plan, I can do it. Like I could, if you give me full creative freedom, love that. You have a picture where you put every single color and you need it to be every single color, every single place. You got it. Love that. Love that just as much. It gives me a game plan. I don't have to worry about if you're going to like my creative flow and style. But normally people who want the creativity don't mind the creativity. And I just think that really helps me flourish as a person and as a business.
I love that. Well, we're going to have you come back and just visit some more, give us some updates on your life and when you have some new products. And I'm sure, like I said, we'll continue to be doing some custom work together, and we'll definitely be featuring your products. You guys will make sure we have a link up on this episode notes, but it's also on the website because BioDane is partnered with Straight Up Dog Talk, and you can use our discount code, which is SUDT10, and you can save 10% on all of your orders at BioDane. Thank you so much, Tayrn, for being here, and I cannot wait to continue working with you and spreading your business throughout the community.
No, thank you so much.
Well, you guys, I hope that you guys will check out BioDane's shop and give her a follow and some likes. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And in the meantime, we'll see you on Straight Up Dog Talk next week. Today's episode is sponsored by BioDanes, your premier source for custom biothane solutions. You can get high-quality tailored gear for your furry friend, including service dog harnesses, pet harnesses, sport dog harnesses, and custom orders on leashes and collars. Not only are these products durable and long-lasting, they're customizable. You can even personalize them with text. Learn more about BioDanes at their website in the link below, and follow them on social media at BioDanes. Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited, produced, and co-hosted by Josh Wasta under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content?
check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.